Right, here's a small excerpt from the first book in my new series, The Brotherband. Central character in The Brotherband is a young guy called Hal. He's half Araluen, half Scandian, and among other things, Hal is an inventor. He often comes up with really good ideas. Sometimes, however, he forgets one small detail. Here's one of his ideas. The cask was Hal's latest brainwave. He'd decided to install a running water system in his mam's kitchen. A zigzag pipe ran down from the cask to the kitchen bench. A spigot at the base of the cask would allow water to run out through the pipe and down to the basin. "You'll never need to fetch water from the well," he'd told his mother, not noticing her dubious expression. "Thorn can fill the cask for you each morning." He'd constructed all the components in his work shed and waited for a day when Karina, that's his mother, had gone down the coast to a market some 10 kilometres away. Then he'd summoned Thorn and Stig and began to install his new system for her. After mounting the cask on a bracket he'd already set high on the kitchen wall and attaching the piping, they'd begun filling the cask with buckets of water pumped from the well. Now the cask was a little over half full and impatience got the better of them. "Why don't we try it?" Thorn suggested. He was eager to see the new system working. As if in response to being mentioned, the cask gave another of those ominous creaks that had been worrying Thorn. He glanced at Hal, who shook his head impatiently. "It's the stave settling," he said, "that's all." He stepped forward, placing a large basin under the end of the pipe. He pulled on a cord attached to one side of the spigot and turned it. The action was a little stiff and the wooden peg squeaked in protest. They heard the soft gurgle of water running out of the cask. It zigzagged down the piping until a silver stream of liquid splashed out of the lower end and began to fill the basin. Stig and Thorn applauded and Hal beamed. "It works," he said triumphantly. Then, realising that such a reaction might imply that he had feared it might not work, he nodded to himself and said in a more matter-of-fact tone, "Yes, excellent, well done, just as I thought." The water was nearing the brim of the basin and he reached up casually to tug on a second string that would shut off the spigot. It stuck. The spigot refused to turn. Water began to spill over onto the surface of the table. He tugged the string again, harder this time. The spigot remained stuck. Water continued to flow, and now it was slopping off the edge of the table and onto the kitchen floor. He tugged harder. There was a creaking sound once more. Thorn frowned doubtfully. "Sounds like those staves are still settling." In his haste to drill holes in the wall beams, Hal had gone slightly offline with one. As a result, the nail supporting one side of the bracket and the cask had missed the timber wall beam. It was supported only by the weak plaster covering. As the weight in the cask grew, the nail had lost its tenuous hold. The bracket was gradually tilting to the side, causing the groaning noise that they had all heard. It was now held in place only by the weak, crumbling plaster, and Hal's final attempt to switch off the spigot was enough to break it free. "Look out!" Thorn yelled. He grabbed Hal by the front of his shirt and heaved him bodily over the table, away from the path of the toppling cask. Stig, sitting to one side, let out a shrill yelp of terror and dived headlong under the sturdy table. With a resounding crash, the cask hit the edge of the table and disintegrated into its component pieces. Staves and iron hoops flew in all directions, and 30-odd buckets full of water inside the cask were released in one enormous torrent. Under the table, Stig was momentarily flattened by the weight of water falling on him. He let out a gurgling screech. The pipes and connecting sections followed the cask, crashing onto the table and the flooded kitchen floor, bouncing and clattering as they disassembled themselves. Hal, held erect by Thorn's iron grip on his collar, watched in horror as his beautiful invention, lovingly built over several evenings, destroyed itself in a matter of seconds. The kitchen was a tangle of barrel staves, hoops, pipe sections, bracket timbers and flooding water. The wall where the bracket had been fastened now displayed a gaping hole where the plaster had been torn loose, exposing the beams. One of the iron cask hoops had been set spinning by the fall. It continued to spin unevenly on the floor, going from rim to rim. The yang, 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 yang sound it made was the only noise in the ruined kitchen. Stig's startled face appeared over the far side of the table. His blonde hair was plastered down by the water. His shirt was totally saturated. "I think those staves are well and truly settled now," said Thorn. And of course that was the moment that Karina chose to return and walked into the kitchen.